Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan, and today I'm going to be talking about The Ice Dragon, Episode 6, from the Game of Thrones by Telltale Games. In this episode, we actually get all six of the TV show actors appearing in this episode. So, we've got Lena Headey as Cersei Lannister, Natalie Dormer as Marjorie Tyrell, Peter Dinklage as Tyrion Lannister, Emilia Clarke as Dany Targaryen, Owen Rian as Ramsay Snow, and Kit Harington as Jon Snow. In this episode, as previous ones, you play as multiple characters from House Forrester. You play as Garrett Tuttle, you play as Mira Forrester, and then you play as Asher Forrester or Roderick Forrester, depending on how your episode 5 ends. As in previous episodes, in the game, you end up playing each character's story intermixed. But that isn't a great way to hear the story audio-wise. So instead, what we're going to do is focus on each character's story in the episode here. So with that, we're going to start with Garrett first, north of the wall. So the episode begins with Garrett climbing a tree with a map in hand to try to figure out where they are. And you use the map to kind of verify, okay, over there is the North Grove, we're heading the right way. Upon verifying this, we climb down the tree and we talk to Sylvie, who is Cotter's sister, and Cotter about what to do, where to head. At this point, too, Cotter is not doing well. He's pretty injured from the fight with the White Walkers before this, losing blood, getting weak. It's not great. As we make our way along towards the North Grove, we end up encountering a polar bear. The polar bear starts to come after us, and so we tell Sylvie and Cotter to go on ahead without us, that we will fight the polar bear. Because Cotter most certainly will not outrun this polar bear. He's going to be food. So they run off, and we fight the polar bear a little bit, and Garrett decently holds his own. I think he gets a slash in on the polar bear, but the polar bear ends up knocking his sword away. However, Sylvie and Cotter have made their way across this frozen ice to the other side, and so they tell us to go. We run across the ice. As we run across, the polar bear follows after, but it falls through the ice into the water. We make it to the other side. We're safe. From here, our group then heads to the North Grove, and when they arrive, they are surrounded and captured. And they're captured by people who look like wildlings, but are not wildlings. Like, they don't know Sylvie and Cotter. Cotter and Sylvie don't know them. But they definitely look like wildlings, and, they're outside the wall. So, yeah. Upon being surrounded, we say, hey, we got sent here by Lord Forrester. Lord Forrester's last words to me were, the North Grove must not fall. Upon hearing this, our captors relent a little. They don't trust us necessarily, but they're not ready to kill us immediately. So that's definitely an upgrade in position. We find out that the leaders of this group are Josira Snow and Elsira Snow, and they're the bastard children of Lord Forrester. This is crazy. Lord Forrester didn't mention any bastards. There's no talk in Ironrath of Lord Forrester having a bastard. So crazy. Josira is the brother, and then Elsira is the sister. We learn in talking to them that Josira is able to... He was actually controlling the polar bear, so he can go into his mind and enter into animals, I guess. And so he was controlling this polar bear, so he was actually chasing us because he thought we were a random bad person. He also reveals to us that his sister Elsira controls the other warriors around them through blood magic, and so that's how they're around here and that kind of thing. So it's kind of weird. This makes me suspect that perhaps the warriors around were wildlings, and they somehow got captured with the blood magic, and now they fight for these guys. So definitely a weird situation. After this, our group hears that White Walkers are coming, so Garrett goes to fight with them. However, they put Cotter into a cave to essentially try to get him healthy, and then they keep Sylvie as a prisoner because she's a wildling and they don't trust her. That's kind of our spot. Garrett goes and fights the White Walkers with them. So we've got Josira controlling the polar bear, Alcira on her own, and then the warriors and Garrett. And they're all fighting the White Walkers. It's pretty crazy. Pretty good fight, I would say. It was fun. There's a part where we save Josira, because when he goes into the polar bear, he's just in his head sitting like vulnerably. So he was at his part where he could have got killed by White Walkers, but we intervened. Also during the fight, one of the White Walkers is Finn from last episode. So that was pretty sad, having White Walker Finn attack us. That was a big bummer. After the fight, we head back to the North Grove, and we're informed that Cotter is not going to make it. The medicine they tried to use didn't work. It's not going to happen. Before heading in, Sylvie comes to us, and she asks us that if we could give Cotter this medicine that will basically make him die right away. So that he won't have pain, and it's something that wildlings do that her people have done before, and this would be a way to honor him, essentially. Upon going to see Cotter, we can see he is in rough shape. He is at death's door and gonna die anytime. Alcira tells us that she needs his heart for to perform blood magic. Her control on the warriors that are defending the North Grove is weakening because she has less magic. It sounds, upon learning in the battle, it sounds like the more she uses the blood magic, the more it maybe hurts herself and makes her weaker. And so, if, I don't know, new blood was in, and that would help them. That they need a freshly beating heart sort of deal. So this is our first decision. We can either choose to give Cotter a merciful death, adhering to what Sylvie wants, or we can use Cotter as a blood sacrifice and help strengthen Alcira for this. And I chose to give him a merciful death. 40% of people did this, and 60% of people used Cotter in a blood sacrifice. For me, I came to enjoy Cotter. I liked him. He was, I felt like a friend at the wall. He was a good person to us, and I liked him. I wanted to do right by him, and with Sylvie coming around, I didn't want her to be, rejected and alone. We'd be teaming up, because I'm not really sure about these North Grove people at this point, and blood magic and shit like that. I didn't want to get involved. So that's why I did what I did. Chris on Twitter wrote in and said that he sacrificed him. So Chris clearly saw the situation differently, that the blood magic was worthwhile for him. After this, we end up, either way, you end up burning Cotter's body on to make sure that he can't reanimate as a White Walker. So either way, he gets that. After this, Josira and Alcira come to us, and they're like, okay, we've thought about what you've said. We believe you're really from our dad. What do you want to do? Josira wants to go to Ironwrath. Alcira wants to stay in the North Grove. You break the tie. So, you can stay in the North Grove, or we can head to Ironwrath. And I chose to stay in the North Grove. 52% of people did this, and then 48% of people chose to head to Ironwrath. The reason I chose to stay at the North Grove was that Lord Forrester told us to. I think that just the way I've played Garrett through this is that you've given me a mission. I want to follow through on it. I'm gonna do what I have to, regardless of kind of what I feel about it or think about it. And it's clear that there is definitely magic in the North Grove. There's something there. So maybe this will allow House Forrester to survive and, come back into Westeros, or I don't know if this is just our final holdout someday. That was kind of my thought process around it. I think on the other side of that, the threat of White Walkers is definitely dangerous, and being in the North Grove does seem to be a dangerous place. So there is that. Chris on Twitter wrote in, though, and he said that they went to Ironwrath. So he did the opposite. decide to let the North Grove go. White Walkers can have it. Doesn't matter. We're going to save Ironwrath. So that is Garrett's story. Next, we'll head to King's Landing with Mira Forrester. Her story begins with Mira entering a room where Lady Marjorie is talking with Sarah, and Lady Marjorie is confronting Sarah pretty hard, telling her that you're not being a good handmaiden, you're putting your own needs above mine, all of that sort of stuff. Marjorie then says that Sarah has been snitching on us too, and telling us bad things, probably as a way to blame shift. Lady Marjorie says that Sarah said that you basically manipulated her into getting to Tommen's coronation, and that, that was your fault, essentially. And this is where your first decision arrives. You can either tell Lady Marjorie the truth and say, yep, I did do that, and you get dismissed. Or you can lie and say, nope, Sarah's a liar, I didn't do that, and then Sarah gets dismissed instead. And for me, I chose to tell Marjorie the truth, and so I was dismissed. 61% of people did this. 39% of people instead said it was Sarah's fault. My kind of thought process on this was, I was on pretty thin ice with Lady Marjorie anyway. She wasn't very happy with really anything I've done in the previous 5 episodes. And I think with that, I was like, well, maybe if Sarah feels like she owes me one, that would maybe be more helpful to House Forrester than me being here. And, if I just get kicked out of King's Landing and have to go home or something, that's fine. That was kind of my thought process. After this, Sarah lets you know that there are rumors of you having killed a Lannister guard that are going around. So she's like, hey, you might want to know this, basically. So we're concerned, as we should be. We run into Tom, we let him know about this, and he's like, okay, we're in this together. You can try to say, like, I've got to get out of here, or you've got to get out of here, but he affirms we're in this together, and I like that. I think when I was speaking to him, I accidentally said, I've got to go somewhere, because I didn't really think he would be in trouble, even though he did help us. I didn't really think about that, and he was like, no, we're in it together. And for me, I was like, yeah, we are, definitely. I didn't say the initial, we're in it together, because I didn't want to, be like, you have to leave too, because I want to leave. But so, okay, Mira gotta get out of King's Landing. At this point, some Lannister guards see us, and they start pursuing us, which is not good. However, as we're running down a street, Lord Morgan is there, and he intervenes. He tells the Lannister guards basically, hey, you probably have way more important things than to try to chase down a handmaiden. Mira didn't do anything. Here's a couple coins. Go have some beers on me, and go away. And the Lannister guards are like, all right, fine. And they do. We then get inside Morgan's, essentially a taxi of sorts. It's like 2 poles. It's almost like a stagecoach, except it's something people carry, it looks like. So there's probably guys on each end who are walking it, and then you're sitting inside it. That's the idea. So we're inside there, and he starts talking to us, and at first he's kind of sounding cool, sounding nice, and we're like, oh, thanks, I just need to get out of here. But then he reveals that he's actually been the person who's plotting against you. That he actually paid the Lannister guard to try to kill you a few episodes ago. That he's been after you, that he's going to get this Ironwood contract, and he's going to be a really rich person and get you out of his way, and it'll be great. After this, he gives you to Lucan, who's head of the Lannister guards. He ends up dropping you off. He's like, oh, here you go. I think I found someone you're looking for. We get dropped off. After this, Mira is taken to jail, and she's awaiting execution. She's in this room that is not good. You can see that the person who was there before you got tortured. There's some teeth on the ground. It's pretty gross. Across the hall from you is also this lady who's raving. I didn't talk to her. My basic move was I'm just going to be silent and kind of see if something good happens, essentially. After a little while, Morgan shows up and comes into our cell and is like, hey, I thought of a way I can get you out of this predicament that I put you in. Which, for me already, I'm kind of like, fuck you, dude. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. And his proposal is, if you marry me, then instead I will team with House Forrester. Then we'll run the Ironwood business together, kind of thing. And also, I'm going to be Lord of House Forrester. So sorry, your family's going to have to all die. But then, we can kill the White Hills from there, and then we'll run House Forrester, but I'm going to be Lord, essentially, is his plan. Yeah, that's kind of the move. That's his proposal. You can either agree to it or disagree. I refused to marry him. 76% of people did this. 24% of people agreed to marry him. I didn't. My whole thing through this game, the whole thing this game has really pushed is family being most important, or perhaps your house if you want to extend it to everyone. Either one. There would be no way for me that I would betray any Forresters. It's not happening. I'm not doing that. Fuck you, Morgan. You can, if you want to be Lord of Ironwrath, you gotta kill all of us. That was kind of my attitude. Chris on Twitter wrote in and said that he did accept Morgan's proposal, so Chris must have saw living as a better thing, which is fair. Dying's not great. At this point, you get taken to the execution block, and there's a crowd of people out there. You see Tom is out there, the coal boy. Lord Morgan is out there, and they're like, oh, this person's a treason. The charge before this person is treason, and Lord Morgan says, yep, she's a traitor. He affirms that. Sarah is also there with her fiance or to-be fiance. I forget his name, but they're there, and they ask you if you have any last words. Your options are to go silent. You can say, fuck you. You can say, this isn't fair. Or you can say, iron from ice. I said iron from ice. That's the House Forrester slogan. That's kind of the thing they've been saying. So I went out proud. Said iron from ice. I put my head down on the block and done. All right, lastly, we head to Ironwrath with Asher. It starts with Asher and his soldiers staging a ambush for the Whitehill men. We get to kill a bunch of them. It's pretty good. Unfortunately, Lord Whitehill or Griff, they're not there. After this, Ludd ends up showing up at Ironwrath, and he brings us Roderick's body, and he offers us a deal that we can marry his daughter, Gwen, and the war will end. This is probably a tempting offer for some. Gwen, her backstory is that her and Asher were in love before Asher got sent to Essos, where he was before this for a long time. They were in love at one point, but they're estranged at this point. And so we can... He offers to marry, and we sort of reluctantly agree. We're like, all right, fine. This will at least buy us time. If not, we could actually do it. And so from here, Asher can decide what he wants to do with this. And we've got 4 options. One is to try to poison them. The other one is to try to ambush them. And then within these, as the decision's going on, you can choose to try to reveal that plan. So you can choose to reveal the plan to poison, and you can try to call off the ambush. All in all, percentage-wise, it goes like this. The poison plan had 26% of people do this. Exposing the poison plan had 16% of people do this. Ambushing the White House had 45% of people doing this. And then trying to call off the ambush, 13% of people did this. For me, I decided to do the ambush. My main thought was, I want to kill Whitehill, but I'm hoping I can kill a bunch of his men. If we can kill a bunch of their leadership, then perhaps we can take the White Hills. A discussion related to that was that the White Hills just follow him. They aren't necessarily good soldiers or care about this necessarily. So if we kill them, we might win. Chris on Twitter wrote in and said he attempted to poison Lud. So he went the poison route. For me, all in all, I wasn't going to call off this plan. I don't want... I didn't want to deal with the White Hills. I'd rather die. I'd rather kill all of them. That was kind of my go at this point. Ultimately, regardless of what you do, a fight breaks out inside the Great Hall. Yeah, it goes down. It's a bunch of mayhem. In the fight, I got to kill Griff, which was pretty satisfying. I ended up stabbing him into a fire, so that was pretty cool. After this, fighting moves from the Great Hall out to the courtyard, and it's getting pretty brutal. More and more White Hills are showing up. They're trying to ram down the gate. It's chaotic, for sure. During this fight, you get wounded pretty badly. You fight one of kind of the key henchmen of the White Hills who you've interacted with in previous episodes. At one point, while he's fighting you, your mom sneaks up to try to fight him, and he kills your mom. So, it's fucked up. During the fight too, there's a part where you can either try to storm the gates to keep them held up, or you can save civilians from being killed. I ended up trying to keep the gate because I thought the civilians would die anyway if we don't get the gate, but it's wild. It's just fucking bonkers in here. As the fighting goes on, the White Hills, more and more of them end up getting through. It's not going our way, and there's a point where we're surrounded. We've been injured multiple times at this point, shot with arrows, shot with an arrow, stabbed through the side. We're really fucked up, and we're surrounded, and we get a chance to say our last words. And so, similar to Mira, our options again are silence, fuck you, something softer like don't ruin my pretty face, or you can say iron from ice. Again, I said iron from ice. House Forrester. Fuck you guys. So I say iron from ice. I'm ready to die. But Duncan tackles me through a wall, away from danger, through a hut wall kind of thing. And he throws us onto a horse. There's another rider. There's a rider on the horse. He throws us on the back of it. And then we see Duncan get swarmed by White Hills soldiers as we make off on the horse. There's another rider alongside us who gets killed, so then it's just us riding on the back of a horse with our rider. As we're escaping, an arrow flies and hits the person who's driving the horse, so we're just laying on the back of the horse as it makes it out. So just barely escape. Asher lives. The horse has been going for a long time. It's night, and we fall off the horse. And then later on, while we're laying on the ground after we'd fallen off the horse, Talia and Royland find us, which was really great. I liked seeing that Royland was back, that although he was busted for being a traitor before, he did the right thing and saved Talia when shit went to shit in Ironwrath. That was really great. We also see Beska and Ryan escaping on horseback somewhere else. So Ironwrath is gone. A lot of Foresters are gone, but there's some of us. I don't know that we would know to go to the North Grove, but I hope we end up there someday. All right, it heads to Epilogue. And what you get for the Epilogue is all of the actors from the television show. So, Jon Snow and Dany Targaryen and everyone. And they're talking about their interactions with the characters that you played as, that they've met through the 6 episodes. And all of them are the Foresters are a stubborn bunch. The Foresters stick to their guns. The Foresters this. And it's really cool. It's a very nice sequence. Just hearing each of these characters that we know, and I guess some that we love from the TV show, just talking about the Foresters and the actions that we made. I really like this. I thought that was highly well done. Really, really like that. So I guess just heading to a couple general thoughts upon the game as a whole. So first, I definitely liked it. It definitely fills a Game of Thrones desire. It feels like Game of Thrones. I definitely thought all of House Forrester would die, and that felt very Game of Thrones-like. It didn't feel like a cop-out. It seemed on brand. It seemed like that's where we could be headed. So that was pretty cool. As it compares to other Telltale games, I haven't played all of them, so it would probably be on my lower bunch right now. I think I like all the Walking Dead ones better, or Wolf Among Us, but those are among the best Telltale games, so I don't know how it would compare against, say, Guardians of the Galaxy or Batman or something like that. But I would put it lower, but I thought it was a pretty solid game. Another thing I really liked in this game was those Iron from Ice moments in this. I really felt the pride of House Forrester. I was really glad with those dialogue options for the last words for Mira and the potential last words for Asher. And I'm forgetting right now, but I think that might have been Roderick's last words in episode 5 for me. So I really like this. I really liked getting to have this house pride. We are Forresters, Iron from Ice, like that kind of thing. I really, really like that. And if there was a season 2, like there was supposed to be before Telltale died, I would have been good with rolling with House Forrester more. Maybe getting Talia as one of your key characters in the next game, or Josira and Elsira up from the North Grove, the bastards, like something like that. There could definitely be more cool Forrester stories to tell, or Ryan growing up, being a little bit older. Even if you ended up having Mira and Asher or Roderick or Garrett, even if they all died off, if that's how this game ended up resolving it, or killed them early in the next one, like these other characters would be cool to get to play as. So I was definitely happy with that. I didn't comment on these in the story as I experienced it, but if you choose to accept Lord Morgren's proposal as Mira, then you see Tom get beheaded. You blame the treason on him, essentially. So you see Tom get killed, and you're in the audience. I watched a YouTube clip of that. I could not live with that. I'm glad I chose to go out. That was rough. If Roderick is alive instead of Asher, then you don't get this proposal to get married. Instead, what happens is Asher plans they sneak into Whitehill's camp, and you get this option where you can either try to kill Whitehill or try to save your brother Ryan. So that's kind of how that option goes. But then you do end up still in a battle inside your own lands where you can you still end up in a fight inside your own courtyard, and you still end up getting put on horseback to escape, kind of thing. So it's cool. That was cool. I like the way the story did progress for me, though. I mean, of course, since it's what I chose. But yeah, I guess that basically covers it. I guess just again as a side point, if for some reason you're not caught up on Game of Thrones, definitely catch up. I've enjoyed the parts of season 9 season 9 or season 8, whatever. The latest current season on TV right now. I've really enjoyed what I've watched so far. I'm excited to see how the show wraps up in the next couple weeks, but it's been enjoyable. Otherwise, please write into us at TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed@gmail.com. Find us on Twitter at StoryEverPod. Let us know what you think about Game of Thrones or other games that you might like us to check out. Cool. I'll see you next time.